Now, you are still watching Ways National Zoo Lovers Day, celebrated on April 8th in the U.S., brings all the zoo animals enthusiasts together to celebrate this significant day. Now, do you know how many animals were saved by zoos from going into extinction? Yes, zoos are more than just conservation sites for endangered species. They also provide educational, research, and entertainment purpose. Now, we can trace the history of zoo back to 4000 BC. Now, if you love animals, then this holiday is just for you. Visit a zoo nearby to find out about your favorite animals. You can also ask to volunteer at a zoo. Now, in the 7th century BC, the Greek had the habit of caging animals. So Alexander the Great sent many animals caught on his military expedition to Greece. Now, the earlier Egyptian and Asian zoo were kept mainly for public visitors and secondarily used for research purposes. During the 4th century BC, the Greek were more concerned with the research and experiment of captivated animals. The Romans had two different animal collections for arena and research objectives. So, that's quite a history. You know, it's so interesting that we are talking about zoo. There are some zoos you shouldn't volunteer or visit. There's one zoo I've heard, I've not been there, but there's a zoo in Ibadan. They say if you see the lion, it looks like a goat. The lion looks like a goat because the lion is suffering from malnutrition. But we have a fantastic zoo in Lagos here. I think Omu Resort. I've been there once. Yeah, once I think, or twice, I can't remember now. But they have a very interesting species of hyena. You know, usually when you see the hyenas, they are usually spotted, but they have a particular hyena that is striped. Oh, wow. So that's a rare species. So whenever you go there, try to look out for that. I mean, they are doing well. They have quite a few animals at that zoo at the Omu Resort.
Do you know, I've never been to a zoo.
Really? You should visit Omu Resort then.
I will. But I used to have this conception that animals should never be caged until I read this, until I saw this today. I used to feel like, I mean, let's be free. But then again,
some were actually kept to actually preserve them from going into extinction.
For research purposes. So I guess that makes sense.
They also study animals.
But then think of the animals, like for instance, the lion in Ibadan now. The lion didn't ask. The lion didn't ask for that.
You know, imagine the root shock I had when I went to the London Zoo. When I saw the size of the lion. You know how you're watching TV. TV doesn't really tell what it is. When I saw the size of the lion, that's when I now know that that's why they call it the king of the jungle. Don't go close. You know, the size of the lion was, I said, I could not be, like, it was like a root shock to me. You know, so I mean, when you hear things like that, sometimes again, that's why I like exposure. It helps, you know, for you to see things. So
I mean, what are the chances that you run into a lion in Lagos?
It not go happen.
It won't. So I guess it has its advantages.
It does.
It's good and the bad. So we just have to find
it. It does. Then I think I've visited Kenya, the wildlife conservation park in Kenya as well. Beautiful.
I'm taking
notes. I saw giraffes. I saw all the big five. I saw them. So amazing. So I mean, for that, I like that one because that one is not really a zoo.
They're in their own natural.
So, but it's just that they have people, you know, watching it because they can also use that to also study them as well, as opposed to putting them in cages. I get you. All right. So, what did you find for us in the news, Amalola?
All right. So, what did I find in the news? Well, what I found is not necessarily good news, but I'm just going to read it out. It was the bridge burning that happened, the burning that happened in, 1 second.
Apongbon, right?
Do you know, I was struggling to remember the pronunciation of that name.
Apongbon.
The Apongbon Bridge fire disaster. So, the recent fire outbreak that ravaged the popular Apongbon Underbridge market in Lagos Island was not an isolated incident. Luckily, no lives were reported lost, but goods worth millions of nairas were destroyed. And the bridge, having been weakened by fire, has been inevitably shut down to prevent more tragedy. Sadly, the disaster was preventable since the traders occupied the place illegally in the first place, as the bridge was not a market in the real sense of it. government officials, both Lagos and the federal, must share in the blame for the incident, having failed or neglected to prevent the unlawful occupation of the space under the bridge. As it were, taxpayers will be forced to cough up money to carry out necessary repairs on the affected parts of the bridge. A sad development in these austere times when little funds are chasing several projects and material costs are huge due to galloping inflation. So it says now that the bridge has been burnt, the federal government wants to carry out integrity tests. It is expected that this should be done promptly without delay, considering the heavy traffic that goes through the bridge corridor. It should not be treated with levity the way the airport link bridge at Toyota bus stop was treated. It nearly took 1 year to repair. It nearly took 1 year to repair one pillar that was damaged after it was similarly burnt by fire caused by a tanker accident. The Apongbon bridge should be repaired with dispatch, while the Lagos State government and federal highway authorities ensure that such incidents do not reoccur.
Well, interesting. I saw a story I was going to take today, but I just said, they say Lagos moves to relocate traders affected by the Apongbon bridge. I'll just leave it there. Well, my story, I just wanted to say that. this my story, because that's like the norm, right? There's a fire in the market, the next thing you're moving, relocating is the normal thing. I think they should get creative with the kinds of things that they do. So my story is actually quite interesting. Is taken from the Guardian paper. I actually have two stories I quickly want to report. ADC to sponsor 300 young persons for reps in 2023. So the Alliance for Democracy, the African Democratic Congress rather, says they want to sponsor about 300 people, and this was said by their National Director of Communications and Programs, right? They said that according to the report, they will be shortlisted, screened, selected, and sponsored. About 300 youths with the capacity and credibility. So they are looking for three things: capacity, credibility, and character. They can build on. And they said that in their party they have allocated about 35%. For youth, women, and persons living with disability. So these people, that when they are selected, they will be given free forms. We know how expensive. I mean, governorship form are here in Lagos about 20 million. Some say 23 million or 22 million. So free forms, they will be given them. And one of the biggest things they are also looking out for is that you must have that grassroots engagement and experience, right? You must be known in your locality. You must have that credibility to say, okay, you know what, if they invest in you, your candidacy, you would go far, because they just don't want to pick out anybody. And how they intend to raise these funds, they are looking at NGOs, some organizations, people to come together, and the target is to raise about 10 billion. Right? When they raise 10 billion, and they'll be able to push this agenda to sponsor about 300 people. So know how some people will come back with a win. And I think the hashtag is about it's called ADC New Tribe. So they're creating a new tribe,
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I now saw a very interesting story. While ADC is trying to sponsor youth to say that they want them to go for political offices, I saw our Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka. He has faulted the youth, saying that their inability to stake a claim in the so he has faulted the youth, and he said that the youth of this nation don't seem to want to take their destinies in their own hands. And he said they failed because he was part of the group that attempted to get a young candidate, a youth, in 2019, and it failed. And he doesn't even see any end in sight right now, that any youth would emerge as a candidate for the 2023 general elections, right? So he says he wants to take a French leave of the elections and just watch the results, right? So it's very likely that I would do it, that all I would do is to take a French leave. I just want to say that for the longest of time, people like Wole Soyinka, I respect his person, but it's just, for me, it's a lot of talk. Why I took this story is to compare these two stories. One person has said, you know what, if I see credibility, if I see anything, we're going to back it with money. So you cannot just tell people that they're not ready to take their destinies into their hands. Politics is expensive. Politics is not a cheap venture, right? So if you're saying that Nigerian youth are not ready, how much money have you invested outside of talking, outside of time and all of that, outside of how much have you invested in ensuring that, okay, you know what, this one, I know this candidate will support you, will take you all the way through, like what this ADC party is already thinking of doing. We need to see more people, right, putting their money where their mouth is, not just, you know, yeah, it's a nice thing to say we're not ready, we're not this, but I've seen so many young people, especially this 2023 elections. I've seen a 23-year-old, right? He's going to be 24, I think, when it's time for him to run, or 25. I've seen 23-year-olds. I have seen 32-year-olds. I've seen all ages, young people under 40, most of them coming out. Today, I met a young girl, and we're bringing her on the show. She's running this is her second time running for a State House of Assembly in Lagos State. Very young girl.
So a lot is happening.
So a lot is happening with young people. So I just want Professor Wole Soyinka to understand that it's beyond just saying that we do not want to take. We want to take our destinies in our own hands. We want to push for these things, but we also need a lot of finance. So what we need for you to do is use your goodwill, your credibility, raise funds. Let us start to see 100 billion being raised, 10 billion being raised, and we're saying, okay, you know what, we're pushing you all the way to the end. That's what we want to see.
When I saw this story, the first thing that came to mind was, okay, I mean, I saw a connection between the two stories, because when he said we're not ready to take our destinies into our own hands, because let's not lie, a lot of some youths, the conception we have about politics is very
screwed,
for the lack of a better word. I will use that word, because it's one or two things. It's either you think that, I remember when I was younger and I had mentioned, I want to be a politician. I remember my brother told me, they will kill you. And I was just like, okay, I don't want to die. Or it's either they will kill you, they won't give you the chance to do it, or you're just going there for the money. So not a lot of people actually have that pure intention. And even those that have the pure intention, something comes along the way. My
own is that support the talking with the money, that's all. Because politics requires money, especially in this country. In fact, everywhere. It's everywhere. All right, so we'll take a break now. When we return from the break, we're discussing HR and how we can use HR to foster a healthy work environment. That's the conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.